Judges chapter 17. A man named Micah lived in the mountains of Ephraim. One day he said to his mother, "The 1100 pieces of silver taken from you and about which you uttered a curse, well, it was I who took that silver, and now I return it to you." His mother answered, "May Yahweh bless my son." So he returned the 1100 pieces of silver to his mother. But his mother said to him, "I had consecrated this money to Yahweh with my own hand, so that with this money my son could make a statue cast in metal. So I am giving this silver back to you." He, however, returned the silver to his mother, who set aside 200 pieces for the silversmith who made a statue cast in metal. This was placed in the house of Micah, so that Micah had a house of God. He also made an effort to consult Yahweh as they cast lots and some small idols, and consecrated also one of his sons as his priest. At that time there was no king in Israel, and each one did what seemed right to him. A young Levite of Bethlehem in Judah, a descendant of Moses who lived there as a foreigner, left Bethlehem one day and set out to see where he could live as a guest. He came to the house of Micah in the mountains of Ephraim, and Micah asked him, "Where do you come from?" He answered, "I am a Levite, and I have come walking from Bethlehem. I am in search of a place where I can stay as a guest." Micah said to him, "Stay in my house and be a father and priest to me. I shall give you 10 pieces of silver a year, clothing and food." So the Levite went into his house. The Levite agreed to stay in Micah's house and became like one of his sons. Micah consecrated the Levite, and this young man became his priest and remained in the house of Micah. And Micah said, "Now I know that Yahweh will bestow favors on me, for this Levite has become my priest." Judges chapter 18. At that time there was no king in Israel. The tribe of Dan was looking for a territory to dwell in, because until that day they had not received a share in the inheritance of the tribes of Israel. So the Danites sent 5 valiant men from Zorah and Eshtaol, all from the Danite tribe, to go around the land and explore it. They said to them, "Go and explore the country." These men came to the mountains of Ephraim, near the house of Micah, and spent the night there. When they were near the house, they recognized the voice of a young Levite, so they went in. They asked him, "Who has brought you here? What are you doing in this place? Why are you here?" He answered, "Such and such a thing Micah has done for me. He has hired me to become his priest." They said to him, "Ask God, so we may know whether the journey we are making shall be successful or not." The priest answered them, "Go in peace. The journey you make is under the eye of Yahweh." The 5 men left and came to Laish. They saw that the inhabitants of that place were living in security according to the customs of the Sidonians, quiet and trusting people, with no one creating trouble. They lived far from the Sidonians and had no dealings with anyone else. Upon their return to their brothers in Zorah and Eshtaol, they were asked, "What news do you bring?" They answered, "Come on, Let us go and attack them, for the country we have seen is an excellent place. But why are you silent? Do not delay in setting out to conquer the land. When you go, you shall meet a quiet people. The land is vast, and God has given it into our hands, a place which does not lack anything. So 600 armed men of the tribe of Dan set out from Zorah and Eshtaol. They went up and encamped at Kiriath Jearim in Judah. From there they passed through the mountains of Ephraim and came to the house of Micah. Then the 5 men who had gone to explore the land addressed their brothers and said, Do you not know that in one of these houses there is an ephod used to consult Yahweh, some small idols, and a statue cast in metal? Now decide what you have to do. The troops made a detour and entered the house of the young Levite, the house of Micah. They greeted him while the 600 armed Danites stood at the threshold of the gate. Then the 5 men who had earlier gone up to explore the land went up again, entered Micah's house, and took the statue, the ephod that is used to consult Yahweh, and the small idols, while the priest stood at the gate with the 600 armed men. The priest said to them, What are you doing? They said to him, Be quiet, put your hand on your mouth, and come with us. You shall be a father and priest to us. Do you prefer to be a priest in the house of one individual, or to be a priest for a tribe of Israel? This made the priest happy. So he took the ephod, the small idols, and the statue, and went with the troops. The Danites went on their way, putting the women, children, livestock, and precious objects in front of them. They were already far from the house of Micah when the people of the neighboring houses started shouting and set out to pursue them. But the Danites turned around and said to Micah, Why are you shouting? He answered, You have taken the gods which I made, and my priest is going away with you. What else is left to me? And yet you still ask me, What is the matter with you? The Danites answered him, Be quiet now, lest some ill-tempered men fall upon you and kill you and your household. So the Danites went their way, and Micah, seeing that they were stronger, returned home. As for them, they now had the gods which Micah had fashioned, and the priest he had in his service, and they marched on against Laish, a quiet and trusting people. They put the inhabitants to the sword and burned the city. No one came to help them, for they lived far from Sidon and had no relationship with anyone else. This city was in the valley which extended to Beth Rechob. The Danites rebuilt the city and lived there, and they gave it the name Dan in memory of their ancestor Dan, son of Israel, though the city was formerly called Laish. They set aside a place for the statue, and Jonathan, a descendant of Gershom, son of Moses, and his sons after him, became priests of the tribe of Dan until the people were driven out of the land. They set up the image Micah had made, and there it remained as long as the house of God was in Shiloh. Judges chapter 19. At that time there was still no king in Israel. A Levite who lived deep in the mountains of Ephraim took a woman from Bethlehem in Judah as concubine. This woman left him and returned to her father's house in Bethlehem of Judah. She remained there for about 4 months. Her husband set out to visit her, and speak to her heart to make her return to his home. He brought with him a servant and 2 asses. She welcomed him in the house of her father, who was glad to see him. His father-in-law, the father of the girl, made him stay, so he remained with him for 3 days. They ate, drank, and spent the night there. On the 4th day, they rose early in the morning, and the Levite prepared to leave. But the father of the young maiden said to his son-in-law, "Eat some bread first, so you can regain your strength. Then you can go." The 2 sat and began to eat and drink together. Then the father-in-law said, "Please spend the night here and have a good time." When the Levite got up to leave, his father-in-law insisted, so he stayed that night. On the 5th day, he again rose early in the morning to go. But the father of the young maiden said to him, "Have more patience and stay until evening." So they ate together. But when the husband, his concubine, and his servant stood up to leave, the father-in-law said to his son-in-law, "Look, it's already getting dark. Spend the night here and enjoy yourself. You can leave early tomorrow morning and be on your way home." But the Levite refused to spend the night there. So he got up, left, and arrived opposite Jebush or Jerusalem. He brought with him the 2 saddled asses, his concubine, and his servant. It was very late when they came near Jebuth. So the servant said to his master, "Let us not go any farther, but go into the city of the Jebusites and spend the night there." His master answered him, "Let us not go to a foreign city where there are no Israelites. We will go to Gibeah." And he added to his servant, "Come and let us go near one of those towns. We will spend the night in Gibeah or in Ramah." So they went their way, and at sunset they arrived opposite Gibeah of Benjamin. They turned aside and went there to spend the night. Then an old man came in from his work in the fields. He was a man from the mountains of Ephraim and lived as a visitor in Gibeah, for the people of the place were of the tribe of Benjamin. Looking to one side, the old man noticed the visitor in the city square and said to him, "Where do you come from, and where are you going?" And he answered, "We are passing through, for we come from Bethlehem of Judah, and we are going up to the borders of the mountains of Ephraim, where I come from. I went to Bethlehem of Judah, and now I am returning home. But here no one has offered me his house. We have, however, straw and green fodder for our asses, and bread and wine for me, my wife, and the young man who accompanies us. We don't lack anything." The old man said to him, "Peace be with you. I shall provide you with all that you need. Just don't spend the night in the square." He brought them to his house and gave fodder to the asses. The travelers washed their feet, then ate and drank. As they were relaxing, the wicked men of the city went round the house, pounded on the door, and said to the old man who owned the house, "Bring out the man you have welcomed into your house, so we may amuse ourselves with him." The owner of the house went out to them and said, "No, my brothers, "Do not treat him badly. This man has come into my house, so do not do him evil. Here is my daughter, a virgin, and my companion's concubine. I can give her to you if you want. Ravish her and do with her what seems good to you, but not with this man." But those men would not listen to him. So the man took his concubine and brought her outside. They violated and maltreated her the whole night until morning. At dawn they left her. At early morning the woman came and fell at the entrance of the man's house where her husband was. She lay there until it was day. When her husband rose up in the morning, opened the door of the house, and went out to go on his way, he saw the woman, his concubine, lying at the entrance of the house, her hands on the threshold. He said to her, "Get up and let us go." But there was no response. So the man put her on his ass and went home. When he arrived home, he took a knife and, taking hold of his concubine, he divided her limb by limb into 12 pieces and sent them throughout the territory of Israel. He gave his messengers this order: "Say this to the Israelites, until today have you seen anything like this since the Israelites came up from the land of Egypt? Think about it. Seek counsel and decide." Everyone who saw it said, "Until today, never has this happened, nor has a thing like this been seen since the Israelites came up from the land of Egypt." Judges chapter 20. So all the children of Israel, the whole community from Dan to Beersheba, gathered as one man, including the land of Gilead, before Yahweh at Mizpah. The heads of all the people and of all the tribes of Israel came to the assembly of the people of God, 400,000 men on foot, all armed with swords. The men of the tribe of Benjamin also knew that the Israelites had gone up to Mizpah. The Israelites said, "Tell us how this crime happened." The Levite, the husband of the murdered woman, addressed them and said, "I arrived at Gibeah in Benjamin with my concubine to spend the night there. By night, the residents of Gibeah showed up and surrounded the house, intending to harm us. They were determined to kill me, and they abused my concubine in such a way that she died. I then took her, cut her into pieces, one piece to each territory of Israel, because what they have done is a shame for Israel. Now that you are here, all Israelites, discuss among yourselves and make a decision now." All the people rose as one man and said, "None of us shall return to his tent, nor go to his house. This is what we will do with the people of Gibeah. We will draw lots, and will take from the tribes of Israel 10 men for every 100, 100 for every 1,000, and 1,000 for every 10,000. They shall gather provisions for the troops who will go to punish Gibeah in Benjamin for the crime its inhabitants have committed in Israel." So all the men of Israel united as one man against the city. The tribes of Israel sent messengers throughout the whole tribe of Benjamin and said to them, "What is this crime that has been committed among you? Hand over those wicked men of Gibeah to us, that we may kill them and banish the evil from Israel." But the Benjaminites did not mind their Israelite brothers. Meanwhile, the Benjaminites also left their cities and gathered at Gibeah to face the Israelites. That day, the Benjaminites who came from different cities totaled 26,000 men, armed with swords, without counting the inhabitants of Gibeah. Among them were 700 valiant men, all left-handed and able to sling a stone at a hair's breadth without missing. The people of Israel also counted their men. Without counting Benjamin, there were 400,000 men able to draw sword, all men of war. So they set out and went up to Bethel, where they asked God, "Who among us shall go up first to fight the sons of Benjamin?" And Yahweh answered, "Judah shall go up first." The Israelites rose early and encamped opposite Gibeah. They went out to fight against Benjamin and drew up the battle line against Gibeah. But the Benjaminites came out of Gibeah and killed 22,000 Israelites. On the second day, the sons of Israel attacked the Benjaminites. The Israelites then went up to weep before Yahweh until evening and asked Yahweh, saying, "Shall we fight again with the sons of our brother Benjamin?" Yahweh answered, "Go up against them." So the people, the troops of Israel, regained their courage and returned to their former battle line. On that day too, the Benjaminites went out against them and killed 18,000 sword-wielding Israelites. Then all the Israelites, all the people, went up to Bethel. There they sat weeping before Yahweh. They fasted the whole day until evening and presented burnt and peace offerings before Yahweh, for the ark of the covenant was there, with Phinehas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, as its minister. They asked, "Shall we come out again and fight the sons of our brother Benjamin or not?" Yahweh replied, "Go up tomorrow, and I will give them into your hands." Israel set men in ambush around Gibeah. On the third day, the Israelites marched against Gibeah and positioned themselves in the battle line as on previous times. The sons of Benjamin went out against them, but the Israelites cut off the way that led back to the city. The Benjaminites began as before to attack the men of Israel, killing about 30 men on the roads going up to Bethel and to Gibeon. So the Benjaminites thought, "We have defeated them again as before." But the Israelites said to themselves, "Let us flee to draw them away from the city and cut off the roads." All the men of Israel moved from their camp and took up position at Baal Tamar, while those who were in ambush rushed out of their place to the west of Gibeah. So 10,000 chosen men from all Israel came against Gibeah. The battle was fought hard, and the Benjaminites did not notice the calamity which was to come upon them. Yahweh defeated Benjamin before Israel, and on that day the Israelites killed 25,000 Benjaminites, all sword-wielding men. The Benjaminites thought they were victorious, but the men of Israel gave them ground because they relied on the ambush they had set up against Gibeah. The men in ambush rushed out and quickly deployed themselves. They attacked Gibeah and put the whole city to the sword. The men of Israel had planned with those in ambush that smoke would rise from the city as a signal. At this, the Israelites would then return and fight. So the Israelites who pretended to escape returned when the Benjaminites had killed about 30 men and had thought, Now they are defeated as in the first battle. The smoke signal was already rising from the city. When the Benjaminites looked behind, they saw that the whole city was on fire, with flames rising up to heaven. When the Israelites faced them, the Benjaminites trembled before the calamity which had come upon them. They retreated before the men of Israel and fled in the direction leading to the desert. But the Israelites who came out of the city overtook them and destroyed them. They surrounded the men of Benjamin, pursued them without rest, and crushed them opposite Gibeah by the east. 18,000 Benjaminites fell, all valiant men. The survivors retreated and fled towards the desert to the rock of Rimmon. About 5,000 men, however, were killed on the way. They also pursued Benjamin as far as Gideon, killing 2,000 men. On that day, 25,000 sword-wielding Benjaminites died, all valiant men. Of those who fled to the desert to the rock of Rimmon, 600 were able to escape. They remained there for 4 months. The troops of Israel turned against the towns of Benjamin and put them to the sword, the people as well as the livestock and everything in them. They also burned all the cities they found. Judges chapter 21. The men of Israel swore at Mizpah, "None of us shall give his daughter in marriage to any Benjaminite." The people went to Bethel. There they sat before Yahweh until evening, called on him, and wept with great lamentation. They said, "Yahweh, God of Israel, why has this misfortune happened to Israel, that one of its tribes has perished today?" On the next day, the people rose early, built an altar there, and offered holocausts and peace offerings. The Israelites then asked, "Who among all the tribes of Israel did not come to the assembly of Yahweh?" For they had solemnly sworn that whoever would not come up to Mizpah before Yahweh should die. The sons of Israel had compassion on their brother Benjamin, and they said, "Today a tribe of Israel has been cut off. What shall we do to provide wives for those that remain? For we are sworn to Yahweh not to give them our daughters in marriage." Because of this, they asked, "Did any tribe of Israel not come up to Mizpah before Yahweh?" And they found out that none from Yabesh of Gilead had come to the camp for the assembly. They made the census and saw that there was no one from Yabesh of Gilead. Then the community sent there 12,000 of their valiant men with this order, "Go and put to the sword the inhabitants of Yabesh of Gilead, including women and children. This is what you shall do. Kill every man and every woman who has had a relation with man, but let the maidens live." So they did. They found 4,000 young virgins among the inhabitants of Yabesh in Gilead, who had not had any relations with man, and they brought them to the camp of Shiloh in the land of Canaan. Then the community sent messengers to the Benjaminites who were at the rock of Rimmon to make peace with them, and the Benjaminites returned. The Israelites gave them the women of Yabesh of Gilead they had spared, but there were not enough for all. The people had compassion again on Benjamin, for Yahweh had let one of the tribes of Israel perish. So the community elders said, "What can we do to provide wives for those that are left? For the women of Benjamin were killed." And they added, "How can the survival of Benjamin be assured, that a tribe of Israel may not perish? We cannot give them our daughters, since we have made this oath. Cursed be he who gives a wife to Benjamin." But they said, "It is now the feast of Yahweh, which is celebrated annually at Shiloh, north of Bethel, east of the road that goes up from Bethel to Shechem, and south of Lebonah." So they advised the Benjaminites, "Go and wait in ambush in the vineyards. Be ready, and when the maidens of Shiloh come dancing in groups, come out of the vineyards, and each man seize a wife and go to the land of Benjamin. If their fathers or brothers come to complain against you, we shall tell them, 'Try to understand them. See, the war left us with no means of giving a wife to each one of them. You are not the ones who gave them your maidens, otherwise you would have broken your vow.' So the Benjaminites did and seized the women they needed. Then they went and returned to their inheritance, rebuilt their cities, and dwelt in them. The Israelites then marched from there to their homes by tribe and families. At that time there was no king in Israel, and everyone did what seemed good to him.